And now for the real Jumanji 2, Zathura, a space adventure. Zathura is a 2005 action-adventure film written by the same guy that wrote Jumanji, and is considered by many to be a spiritual sequel of Jumanji. Originally, it was conceived to be a direct sequel, but they lost the rights, and so now it's just a spiritual sequel. It stars Josh Hutcherson, Kristen Stewart when they were kids, and Dax Shepard. It's about a couple of kids that start playing a board game that they found in the basement. Once they start playing, the world around them changes, instantly teleported into outer space, where all things space-related become a terror for them. Along the way, they run into a stranger that has inside knowledge of the game at hand. All of this can be completely mirror image of Jumanji, as Robin Williams would have played the insider knowledge stranger guy. The only thing that I would actually mention is that you can't replicate the magic of Robin Williams, but that's all I really have to say about Jumanji vs. Zathura, because other than that, it's the same movie, just that production-wise, you might say that this one's slightly better because of the visuals. Let's get into it. First up is the people category. This goes over the acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry, only one of which gets a perfect score, and that was chemistry, as this is a film that takes a pretty good, deep look at sibling rivalry and sibling relationships and how important that is. The rest of this, however, gets half points. The acting was pretty typical. The character-wise, I don't really think you're going to be remembering the characters in this movie all that much. Casting-wise, anybody could have really been playing in these parts. It's interesting who they chose, but that's all I have to say about that. Half points to that. The people category gets 6 out of 10 possible stars.
I forgot to mention the importance of the characters, all of which seem to have their own importance to the film, except for Kristen Stewart, who is literally there for no reason, which gives it half points.
Next up is the writing category, which goes over the dialogue, the balance of the film, the depth of the story, originality, and how interesting it is. All of which get perfect points except for originality and the dialogue. Dialogue-wise, there's nothing that stands out. Originality-wise, it's literally a carbon copy of Jumanji just in space. Where does it go right? It's definitely balanced. It's all about finishing the game when it really comes down to it. The depth of the story, like I said, it has a lot to do with the importance of sibling relationships. And interesting, absolutely. Writing category gets 8 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, we look at the BTS category, which goes over the visuals, directing, editing, advertisement, and the music. Only 2 of which gets perfect points. That's the visuals and the advertisement. The advertisement's gonna be as advertised, no false advertising there. Visuals, definitely pretty good visuals, so that gets full points. Everything else gets half. There's nothing that stands out for either the directing or the editing. I'm sorry, Jon Favreau, and the music and sound were okay, it just never got to the point of sounding spectacular, so that gets half points. So the BTS category gets 7 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, we look at the narrative arc category, which goes over the introduction, inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and the falling action, all of which gets perfect points. The introduction got you acquainted with the kids. The inciting incident is the start of the game. The obstacles are basically everything that happens while they go on their turns. The climax is a big culmination of everything else between that just adds everything to a head. And the falling action does calm down and return to a new norm. 10 out of 10 possible stars for narrative arc. Next up is the entertainment category, which goes over how rewatchable it is, how much of a fun experience you have while watching, any impulse to buy it, any impulse to talk about it, and if it sucks the audience in. Rewatchable, yeah, I've seen this probably 3 or 4 times overall, so I definitely consider it rewatchable, and I do have a heck of a lot of fun time while watching, so both of those get full points. I don't have an impulse to buy it or own it, so this gets 0. Impulse to talk about it? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some discussion-worthy elements in this film, so that gets half points since I won't be rushing off to anybody saying you gotta see the movie. Does it suck the audience in? Sometimes, not all the time. It's not a movie that's constantly sucking you in, so that gets half points. The entertainment category gets 6 out of 10 possible stars. The specialty category goes over 5 different things that I wanted to know before I watched the movie. Everybody who's gonna watch the trailers is automatically gonna think, like Jumanji. So, is it like Jumanji? I've already said it is, so this definitely gets 10 out of 10 possible stars. How does it work as an adventure film? Surprisingly, very well, as this takes place in one house. For such a limited space, it really does feel adventurous. It feels like a full-fledged adventure. That gets full points, 10 out of 10. As a fantasy, the idea of the board game being this mystical and magical is part of fantasy, as well as the aliens that show up in the film here and there. 10 out of 10 possible stars. As a comedy film, is it funny? More so for kids. A lot of the jokes were lost on me as a 30-year-old, so that gets half points, 5 out of 10. Finally, is it halfway decent? I truly believe that it is. I believe that Jon Favreau made the movie that he wanted to make. He did a good job. So overall, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10 possible stars. If we add up everything, we get 82 out of 100 possible stars, 82%. Guys, tell me what you thought of Zathura, a space adventure, in the comments down below. And on YouTube, you can subscribe to me, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review. Peace out.